right, welcome back, everybody. You know, every parent knows when your child is struggling, it's tough on the whole family, and to push to medicate children can be scary for parents.
Yeah, we sat down with Dr. Robert Reynolds, a local psychologist who's an expert in the treatment of disorders like ADHD. He says most parents don't even know there is a scientifically based, effective way to treat children and adults without the drugs.
Many of these parents have been through all kinds of different types of interventions, everything from medications to various kinds of therapies, and they're still having trouble with their child. In fact, I sometimes think about changing the name of my clinic from the Reynolds Clinic to the Clinic of Last Resort.
Here at Reynolds Clinic in Middletown, Dr. Reynolds and his team use neurofeedback and parent coaching to bring peace back to the home and school without using drugs to treat conditions like ADHD.
The vast majority of parents, that's all that they're informed about. And it's unfortunate because many, many children can be dramatically improved without having to go that route. But unfortunately, parents are never provided that information, and unfortunately, most doctors are not aware of what the options are.
Reynolds says the American Academy of Pediatrics now advises pediatricians to try at least one behavioral intervention before medicating a child. And science is proving the brain can heal.
Neuroplasticity is the notion that the brain can heal itself if it's given the opportunity. So the first thing we do here is we actually take pictures of that electrical activity through what we call the brain map. So the purpose of the brain map is to take a look at how intact is the child's grid. And if it isn't, then I know what needs to be improved, which is what the next step of what we do is, which is neurofeedback training to bring those parts of the grid back online.
So this is where the hope comes in. There's a solution if one part isn't communicating right.
Yes, and not only that, but if one person isn't communicating, one part is not communicating right, and you bring that part online, the whole grid gets stronger.
Neurofeedback looks a lot like playing video games, which we all know kids love. I give it a try. First, sensors are placed on my head to measure my brain's activity. Next, I play the game, but there are no hand controls. Instead, I focus on keeping the car straight, and my brain's energy moves it.
The more focused you are, that sensor that's attached to your skull is picking that up. Very good. So it's giving your brain a message that it's never gotten before, which is how to pay attention. You know, when we tell kids, pay attention, you got to pay attention, that doesn't mean anything to them. When we give their brains the information of what that means when you drift, bring yourself back. When you get anxious, bring yourself back. That back place, that center place, is what we're strengthening.
This is one part of a three-prong approach Reynolds uses. He also works with the school to make sure a child's learning needs are met in class, and parents are coached on home strategies.
Again, if you've got a child with ADHD or ODD, I basically tell them, if they don't know already, your child's behavior is running the family. So you need to get back in charge, and we teach parents the skills that they need to manage that household, to get back in charge of that household.
What's the timeline for change?
We say about 3 months, but it's not a long-term process, and once they're finished for the rest of their lives. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You never forget it.
And for adults, he says it's never too late to learn.
But with adults, their lives have not worked out very well, and they want to improve their situation significantly. They want to really get things going in a better direction. So the motivation is strong, and with that kind of motivation, it gives me a lot to work with, and I can often improve adult circumstances in less time than with a child's.
To be clear, Reynolds doesn't think medication is bad. He even agrees some need it, but he tries to taper it.
Medication, when it works for the length of time that the child's on medication. When the child's off the medication, they're right back to square one. Our philosophy here is skills before pills. We want to teach children the skills that they need to manage their lives.
Reynolds uses these skills to help children and adults with issues ranging from ADHD to OCD to sensory processing disorder, autism spectrum disorders, and childhood depression, anxiety, and more. He doesn't see the labels as disabilities.
In Silicon Valley, it's full of people with ADHD. That creative energy engages these people, and it's almost like Silicon Valley is like a magnet for these ADHD kids. And so there are more and more environments where having ADHD is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage. Unfortunately, the average classroom is not one of those environments. I love working with these kids. These kids have what I call big personalities. I mean, these kids are creative, outside-the-box kids. And if I can help them learn to manage that energy, oh my gosh, the sky's the limit.
Well, if you're intrigued, Dr. Reynolds is having a free seminar at the Reynolds Clinic in Middletown on Wednesday, April 6th, 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. Also Saturday, April 9th from 9 to 11 in the morning. Some insurance does cover his work. And interestingly, he says often adults realize they're struggling too when they bring their children in. Perhaps they were never diagnosed. He ends up treating both parents and children. And supporters say the results are life-changing.
That's great, because that was my next question. He does do adults as well.
He does do adults, and he said sometimes adults, because we're so much more aware of why we need the help, we'll heal faster.
Okay, good. All right, coming up tomorrow.